Welcome, folks. All right. Gonna wait for a few more people to join, and then we'll dive into explaining what TKS is all about. You can hit us up in the chat with where in the world you're tuning in from. That would be awesome. Deanna, awesome. Yes, and also if you have any questions right off the bat, you can hit us up in the chat or in the Q&A, and I will be sure to get to those questions before we head out today. Where is everyone else tuning in from? Atlanta, awesome. All right, I'm gonna give folks maybe one more minute to join, and then I'm going to dive right in. Brooklyn, welcome. Abigail, thanks for being here. Welcome, folks. For those that are joining, hit us up in the chat with where you're tuning in from. We're going to kick it off real soon, diving into what TKS is all about. All right, I'm going to kick it off. All right, guys, thanks for being here. Welcome, welcome. I am Jess. Nice to meet you all. I'm going to be explaining to you what this TKS thing is all about, the world's top innovation program for youth like yourselves. But before I dive into what TKS is about, I'm going to just intro you to myself a bit so you know who is talking at you here. So my name is Jessica. I started my career in project management and marketing, and then I quickly got interested in product management. I kind of pivoted into that space, created 2 companies, and throughout my entire career, I really enjoyed mentoring students. And it was the first time that I really felt like I was making impact in my career, is when I was working with youth and seeing the impact that kind of coaching had. And so that is how I have found myself here at TKS. This is a job where I get to actually use that beautiful combination of mentoring smart people like you, along with all of my history in product and project and marketing and entrepreneurship. So my main belief here is that I truly believe students, teenagers, young people like you guys can start building and impacting the world now. You don't need to wait until you're in the real world, whatever that means. So that is why I'm here, and that is why I love what I do every single day. So a little bit about me. Now I'm going to give you guys some information about what this TKS program is all about. Like we mentioned before, please let us know if you have any questions in the chat or in the Q&A, and I'll be sure to answer those throughout. Okay, so we're going to dive into our first activity right now. In the chat, hit us up with whether you think the world is changing in a linear or an exponential way. So linear meaning things are staying the same, we're evolving at the same rate. Exponential meaning things are essentially changing at a very drastic increase rate, not linear, but exponential. So hit us up in the chat of what you think the rate of change is in our current day and age. Okay, got a bunch of people saying exponential. Yes, you are in fact correct. The world is changing at a very exponential 100%. Yeah, you're bang on, Catherine and Abigail. That's exactly right. So crazy to think about. If we look at this slide here, these are all things that only have happened in the last 20 years. So 20 years ago, we didn't have an iPhone. That was in 2007. YouTube, it wasn't around until 2005. Gmail, 2004. So all of these things have happened in the last 20 years. And these things are just going to continue to compound on other emerging technologies. And the future is going to change exponentially. So that increase, that change is going to get more and more like this as our emerging technologies compound on top of each other. So my next kind of question for you, and every time I ask a question, hit us up in the chat with your answers to it. What do you think is going to be the biggest shift in our lives in the next 20 years? I'll give you guys a second to think about it, but hit us up in the chat. Do you think what type of emerging technology? Is it going to be something different? What's something that's going to be one of the biggest shifts in our world in the next 20 years? Okay, AI, more technology like AI. Yeah, can we get more specific? Any ideas specifically around AI? Let's hear from some other folks. Okay, yeah, so we have a lot of different areas, more robotics, less people. Yeah, totally, right? So AI, the combination of robotics and AI, maybe it's in the gene editing space, maybe it's in quantum computing. We don't know, but we do know that the biggest shift is very much so going to be in this technology emerging science space. So my question for you guys next is, if you were behind in 20 years, why might that be the case? So all of you guys on this call here, in the next 20 years, you guys are going to be in your 30s. That's like the prime time of your career. That's like the prime career time in your mid 30s. So if you were behind or struggling in this new future, that's going to be exponentially different than our current future. Why might that be the case? What might something be that would make you behind? So you would be just basically getting by instead of thriving. Any thoughts? Hit us up in the chat. Okay, some of the very popular common answers are things like less education. Okay, so yeah, we're not necessarily being educated on how to become smart in a specific technological domain very quickly. So one thing that we know 100% to be true between now and the next 20 years is that the change is going to be exponential, and it's going to be exponential in the technology and science space. And so our ability to learn a technical skill quickly, we know for sure is a skill that we need to have. For the rest, it's hard to know specific things of what the world is going to look like, but we know certain skills are going to 100% be necessary. And that's going to be learning a technical skill very quickly, being able to like articulate complex things to people. There's a lot of different skill sets that we are going to need in the future that we aren't necessarily being trained on in our normal formal education. And that's kind of where my next question is what are the gaps between what you're learning now, whether that's in school, homeschooling, whatever your situation is, and what you should be learning? Okay. And one of those big ones is, like I just mentioned, the ability to learn something technical very quickly, the ability to teach yourself something very quickly. So instead of just, being told what to learn, how do you follow your curiosity and teach yourself something that you're passionate about and excited about? And then how do you take that technical information and how do you actually bring it to the world, build something about it, put it out there? And these are all skill sets that we're not necessarily practicing. And I'm going to go into these in a lot more detail. So some of the key factors of people that are going to thrive in this, exponential technical difference future is they are going to be able to learn fast and build things and figure it out. So figure it out is a really big piece here, right? Our ability to be presented with something that's complex or challenging or different, and our ability to practice figuring it out, struggle through that, figuring something out is a skill and is not something that we're necessarily doing a lot of. And typically we have to be doing this in an area that we're really interested in or passionate about or curious about. And that's the motivation to figure something out. So that's one of them. Another one is that these people that are going to thrive in this future, they're going to have to be compelling communicators with high emotional and intellectual horsepower. So what does that mean? We're going to go into that a little bit. But essentially, if you think about all of the people that shape our world, they need to be able to communicate their vision, their idea, whether that's like a scientific innovation or whether that's a cool new emerging technology company. They need to be compelling communicators that have obviously high EQ to be able to get other people on board with their vision, their idea. They have a strong network of valued, aligned friends and professionals. So this is the value of networking. It's just super, super important and is probably something that is not on a lot of high schoolers' minds at this point. Okay, so we're going to look through how different elements of TKS kind of train for this future, where these are the type of skills that we're going to need. Okay, so being able to learn something fast, build things, and figure it out. So one of the core elements of TKS, we have a platform called TKS Life. And TKS Life is essentially somewhere that holds all of the great stuff we do here. That's going to be where you'd have your personal portfolio and where you can really learn something quickly. So we have these things called explore modules. So essentially, unlike school, TKS is very much so designed to follow your curiosity. So we train you guys to what is it that you're interested in? What are you curious about? A lot of people have no idea when they join TKS what area they're interested in, and that's completely fine. And so a big part of TKS is figuring out what that is. Are you interested in AI? Are you interested in quantum computing? Are you interested in gene editing? Are you interested in the intersection of AI and gene editing? Those are all questions that you probably don't know the answers to yet. And maybe it's not as technical of a topic. Maybe it's more of a scientific topic. And this is a platform where we have curated the most cutting edge resources for all of these different areas that you have the ability to explore endlessly. And once you find out, hey, this is what I'm curious about, then we build things in those spaces. So this is another example. Right now, we have history classes in our typical high school situations, but we don't have a future class. But we kind of need a future class, right? We are going to be having an exponential different future than we do currently. So we need to train for that. Okay, once we figure out what we're curious about, what do we do to get good in that space? What do we do to learn in that space? And the answer is we build things. So on the screen here, you can see a quick little screenshot of just some examples of some projects that students have built. So once you've determined, hey, I'm really interested in, the future of 3D printing, for example, okay, how can you build in that space to learn that skill set? So you're learning how to build something very quickly and learn the technical knowledge around it. So this is super, super key for preparing yourself for the future. So this is a big component of what is done here at TKS. We as directors, that's my role. We are coaching you through this process of how do you find something you're curious about? How do you build in that space? How do you create content around that? That's a big part of the TKS program here. And here's some examples of things students have built. A more specific examples, this student was really, really passionate about how do I help animals. And so she wanted to use the intersection of helping animals with AI and created this interesting skin cancer screening tool using an AI model to help vets determine if a pet had skin cancer. This student here, super passionate about BCIs and brain control. So you can see this is a project she built in her own living room. She's got a little car and she's controlling it with her brain and her mind. This student here was very interested in soft robotics, and the project that they decided to build was in that space. So what you build and how you build it and all of those nuances are very diverse depending on the area of interest that you have. Okay, our second component here of what is needed to kind of thrive in this future is being a compelling communicator with high emotional and intellectual horsepower. And this is something that we are training you guys on throughout the entire program year here at TKS. So students will essentially have the opportunity to practice this skill many, many times. And then depending on, the work you're doing, you also will have the opportunity to take that skill set out into the real world and use that at potentially conferences and et cetera. So here's some examples of some students that have done that on more global stages. Again, we'd be practicing this in the TKS community a lot, but then also some students go off to speak at TED, speak at Web Summit, speak at Microsoft, speak at all these different types of summits depending on their specific project that they've built in. So again, whether that's for you if you're really, really passionate about gene editing, or whether that's for you, you're really passionate about synthetic biology, that would be the kind of topic that you would potentially speak around. But again, we're practicing these in session, and whether or not you want to go off to a stage and do that, that's something that is an opportunity that TKS can open up for you. More examples of all of these different people presenting on global stages. Okay. Another thing that we need to thrive in this future is to have a strong network of value-aligned friends and professionals. So our network is our currency. You can think about your network as like literally cash you have in the bank. Okay, it's a very important thing. It's what opens up lots of opportunities. It keeps us connected. It helps us grow as individuals. And we at TKS really value this and teach you guys the skills of how do you actually begin to have a network that's really valuable to you. We have a world-class mentorship program. You can see here that we have people that have seen the value of TKS and have agreed to mentor our students from McKinsey, SpaceX, Google, BenchSci, Apple, Microsoft. The list goes on and on. There are tons and tons of mentors. And we also have our alumni network. So these are all TKS alumni, and you can see the different companies that they work at. And they're still part of the TKS community. So for example, if you end up working in a space that one of these alumni are working in, they can be a really, really great connection for you to connect with and build your your network in. We also train you on how to hustle and find your own mentors. So for example, if you're interested in a very specific intersection Maybe you are interested in specifically gene editing and how it relates to this specific element of blood. How do you find specific people in that domain to join your network? And we as program directors train you on how to do that at a very high level. Then we have the TKS Director Network. So you can see my little face here in one of the squares. These are all my amazing colleagues. And we are the kind of main point of contact that you as a TKS student would have. So each of the TKS students has a specific dedicated director. And we as directors are full-time employees here. And our entire role as a director is to support and coach our students. So whether we're coaching you on how to do amazing outreach, how to make amazing content, how to pick what area you're interested in, all the things we're talking about, you have your main go-to person. But we all come from very, very diverse backgrounds. We have directors who have like a hard tech background, whether that's BCIs, blockchains, battery tech, SynBio. We have a lot of directors who have more of a background in alternative education or in entrepreneurship, have started their own companies. And you have access to all of these beautiful, amazing minds. So whether your director is me, let's say though you're really interested in battery tech, I could connect you with the director that has more of a background in that space. So these are really they're going to be holding your hand throughout the entire program to make sure you get exactly what you would need out of the program. So that's a little bit more about the network. And then we also have the global community of TKS students themselves. So we have quite a few in-person programs. We have quite a few virtual programs. There's often lots of fun, cool meetups in different places in the world. Here's another couple photos. And then if you're more in the virtual space, we have this amazing tool where you can see where everyone is. So this is a quick little screenshot off our TKS Life platform. And you can see where are there people in the world? Like where are people in the world that might be in a similar location as me if you're in the virtual program. So for example, I live in Ottawa, if I go up here and I zoom in, I will be able to see who else in the TKS network is in this general area, meetups, hangouts, and growing your network that way as well. It's also very valuable to just be surrounded by other ambitious teenagers like yourselves that are interested in the emerging tech space and becoming great friends with them. A lot of people join TKS and they're like, oh my gosh, I found my tribe. I never found my tribe before. And this is a really, really great tool to be able to do that. Okay, a little bit more about what we're kind of training our students for. So these are some of the things that we see often end up being the outcome of a student going through our program. And I'm going to kind of go through some examples of each of these. So we have examples of students who have started venture-backed companies based on the projects and the work that they started in TKS. We have a lot of examples of students joining early at a venture-backed company, joined established innovative companies. You'll see some examples, maybe potentially working at a cool research lab if they're more in the science space, or working more on a social kind of international impact initiative space. So these are what you end up doing is completely dictated by your interest and which direction you're going in. So here's an example of a student who started a venture-backed company based on the projects that he started here at TKS. Utopia Labs raises 23 million of capital and is full steam ahead with building out their product. Super cool. This is another example in the medical space that received 100 million in pre-money seeding, also created a venture-backed company from the projects he started here at TKS. And here's a bunch more examples. I'm not going to read them all off, but you can take a quick look. These are all examples of TKS students who have gone on to start venture-backed companies in the emerging tech or science spaces. Another one of the things that we're coaching students on, depending on if this is the direction they want to go in, is joining early at a venture-backed company. So here you can see a couple of examples of this. All of these students ended up working at a really cool venture-backed company in its early stages, so more of the startup vibe, and then ended up being a crucial member of that. So again, this comes from the work that they did in their individual projects, being trained by their director on how to do outreach, etc. Lots of cool examples. Then we have a more established company. So a lot of our students go on to work at more established big companies. For example, this is an example of Anya. She's at Neuralink. We have another student example here who's working at Tesla. A bunch across the board. There's many, many. I have a video at the end that recaps a couple other more of the established company students are working at. Working at a recognized research lab. So a lot of times you're more working in the hard science spaces versus the emerging tech. So that might be that you have to be working in a lab in order to continue your research or continue what you're interested in exploring. And here's some examples of students that have gone on to work at the Stanford lab and doing research across a bunch of different interesting labs. I only have a couple screenshots here, but there's many examples of students at top research labs that end up working there after what they've done in the program year here at TKS. And then if your jam is more about international impact, you're really drawn to TKS more for the social element. We have examples of students going off and really, working with the WHO, for example, the World Health Organization, to do more of the social impact pieces. And again, this is Isabella. This came from her projects that she worked on here at TKS. So we have lots of examples. I have a couple more kind of just screenshots here, examples of things that students have gone on to do. SpaceX engineer and founder of a company, co-founder of a human longevity company, founder of a biosensor, molecular diagnostics company. We have a bunch of students that end up doing the Teal Fellowship, brain-computer interfaces at Neuralink and at Stanford. Also, a lot of students end up using the projects that they do here at TKS to really help them get into top universities. If you're if you're gung-ho on a specific university track, doing the stuff that we do here at TKS, project building an emerging tech, creating a portfolio, creating content, putting it out there, is super, super valuable for helping get into top universities because it makes you different than everyone else. So you can see another student example here at Stanford. So lots of different kind of success stories, if you will, of students going off and doing really cool things that they probably wouldn't have been doing if they weren't in TKS before that. This student here working at SpaceX. So again, just more and more examples of cool things that our students end up doing. And this is all because of the hard work that they put in during their time here. This isn't like you join TKS, therefore you get to work at SpaceX. This is, they're super passionate about it. They put in the work, they put in the effort, they leveled up. And then cool opportunities like this become available to them because of the work that they put in. More examples. This is a woman here speaking at AI Summit. So just the list goes on and on. An intern at General Fusion, quantum residence, again, founder of this medical-based company. We've got intern at Neuralink. So you guys get the idea. There's a couple more here. Founder at Good Cash, research lab, working as a blockchain developer at Skylock. These are all students that got cool opportunities from the work that they did here through the coaches at TKS. One thing I want to call out is that a lot of students hear and see these amazing, cool stories, and they think, oh, well, I'm not techie enough, or but I haven't done that stuff yet. And a huge motto we have here at TKS is really has nothing to do with what you have done so far. It has to do with what you will do. Okay, so we feel like a lot of the time students have this type of imposter syndrome where they see all of these success stories and they are essentially like, oh my goodness, I'm intimidated. That couldn't possibly be me. But I wanna reassure everyone listening that these students, all these student examples I just went through, they were exactly the same as you before they joined TKS. They had a general, hey, I think I might be interested in emerging tech, or I think I might be interested in emerging sciences. Maybe they had a general inkling of I know I like, the genetic space, or maybe they don't. A lot of students come in with absolutely no idea what interests them, and that's totally fine. But what they did was they joined the program and then they put in the work. And that is what got them to where they are today, all those great examples. And so with that in mind, this is how we keep this in mind with regards to how we evaluate candidates on whether or not someone would be a good candidate for TKS. We don't evaluate it based on your grades or send us this impressive portfolio or anything like that. We evaluate it based on what do we think you will do? What do you think? Do you have that that drive to do amazing, cool things? Are you going to put in the work? And these are the 4 specific things that we kind of look for great TKS candidates. So Do you have the desire to make an impact in the world? Whatever that means, you don't have to know how you're going to make impact yet, but do you have the desire to make an impact? That is important. That is what, the whole motto here, the whole reason we all do what we do here at TKS is we're trying to create a better world. And we think the best way to do that is by training bright minds such as yourselves at an early age in order to set you guys up to have as much of an impact as you can in the future. So do you have that desire to make impact? Do you have curiosity to learn about the future? Do you have like I don't know what I'm interested in, but I know I'm curious about it. And that curiosity is going to fuel you to learn about different types of emerging technologies and sciences and see which ones interest you. Do you have that? Do you have the willingness to put in the work? Again, you're going to have, in order to have the results that you see from these slides, some work needs to be put in. Are you willing to create that content, put out that YouTube video, write that article about some cool topic that you're really excited about, do the presentations and sessions to practice, etc. And essentially your coach is there, your director is there to help guide you along the whole way with regards to like where you should be putting your effort and what you should be doing for putting in the work. And do you want to meet like-minded people? So a huge value of TKS is the community that you are exposed to. You're surrounded with a bunch of other people who are super passionate about emerging tech, creating impact, emerging sciences, all those things. They want to learn about the future, and being around those types of people can be a big difference to the environments that we're used to. And so, are you interested in being surrounded by other people that are interested in these types of things and what that means? So these are the 4 things that we look for when applicants apply. Are they talking to these things in their application? And if you are, then you're a good fit. It doesn't have to do with, oh, does this person have like X amount of knowledge in AI yet? That stuff doesn't matter. If you're willing to follow your curiosity and put in the work, then that's what we're looking for in candidates. Okay, I'm going to reveal to you guys this really, really cool video that actually just launched like maybe 2 days ago. And it's a really beautiful video that articulates nicely and summarizes a lot of what I've just gone over. So what is TKS? What is it all about? This video articulates it nicely. So it's about just over 2 minutes. I'm going to play it for you guys, and then I will have some time to answer any of your questions.
Unfulfilled potential. Probably one of the biggest losses that humanity faces continuously, and it goes on silently.
Imagine a future where we have more people operating at their full potential to build things that matter and solve the world's biggest problems. When Naveed and I were working in Silicon Valley, we got exposed to a version of the future that exists only in a bubble. We can't just sit around, cross our fingers, and hope someone will solve the world's most important problems. We realized there's no system to push people, especially young people filled with ambition and energy, to work on things that actually matter to them and the world.
We became obsessed with how to hack human potential. We knew we had to do it differently, to understand the youth better than anyone so we could perfect every aspect of a new human accelerator for teens. Exposing people at an earlier age gives them the highest probability of maximizing their impact on the world. We treated optimizing human potential as any other engineering or business problem. We approached it methodically, constantly framing from first principles and testing our hypotheses.
We borrowed from the best minds around the world and experimented with models from top organizations like Harvard, Google, and Y Combinator. We personally taught and mentored hundreds of students, learned from what works and what doesn't work. To expand the program, we brought staff from unconventional backgrounds who bring differentiated perspectives. They're former founders, lawyers turned consultants, product managers turned coaches, and engineers turned marketers.
TKS is for builders. We focus on project-based learning, building real projects and products using emerging technologies and sciences.
We push students to go deep and grow their knowledge in topics like AI, quantum computing, genetic engineering, brain-computer interfaces, mixed reality, biometrics, and more.
We shift mindsets to build confidence, grit, anti-fragility, thinking 10x, and along the way, building self-awareness.
Students develop real-world skills like networking, presenting, collaboration, resourcefulness, and building a personal portfolio.
And build networks with lifelong connections with the most innovative teams and learn from mentors and industry experts from around the globe. The results coming from the program are truly exceptional. TKS students join venture-backed companies, they raise millions of dollars for their own startups, they establish new patents, or work at the world's most innovative companies and labs. Today, TKS alumni are amongst the youngest employees at Google, Microsoft, Apple, NASA, SpaceX, OpenAI, Neuralink, and Tesla.
TKS continues to expand globally, staying at the cutting edge of emerging tech and sciences, partnering with innovative organizations. Our aim is to make TKS more accessible to teens around the world and experience what TKS is all about.
Join the world's top innovation program for teens and create the future.
All right, guys. So if creating the future sounds like something that you're interested in, if you're interested in emerging tech, the future, there's really no harm in applying. So I encourage you all to apply and then take it from there. We offer a lot of financial aid for those that require it and deserve to be in the program. We very much so believe if you deserve to be in the program, for example, you demonstrate those 4 things I just mentioned, then we'll do what we can to make sure that you can attend the program. And so if anything I've said so far sounds somewhat interesting to you, I encourage you to apply and then see how it goes from there. But again, this is our opportunity to kind of create a better world for the future. And we think the best way to do that is through amazing youth like yourselves. Okay, so if you are interested in applying, you can use the QR code on the screen. And in the meantime, I'm happy to answer any and all questions. So you can hit me up with any questions you have and I'm going to answer them. So let me see what I've got here. Can current high school seniors, class of 2024, apply? Okay, so in the chat, can you tell me like what your age is and what's your plan for next year? Are you enrolled in university next year? What's your age? And it depends on that. So if you can give me that information in the chat, I'll give you a more concrete answer. How many applicants are accepted? So it's a good question. We don't have a specific number where we're like, once we hit X number, we cut them off. Again, we're trying to get this to as many bright minds as we can. We think that's the best way we can make the most impact in the world. And so it will depend on the quality of the applicants. And so I think next year we're going to be around 1,300 students. This year in Innovate, we have around 1,000. But yeah, again, if there's 1,301 that are really good fit, then we would let them in. It's not like we cut them off at a specific number. 18 and enrolled in university. So I would say, Corey, it's worth applying. And you can speak to that. Typically, this is a high school program, but that doesn't mean that there's just like a hard and fast rule that if you're 18, you can't get in. So I would still apply. It is designed for high schoolers. But it doesn't mean that it's an absolute like no. So if it's something you're interested in, I would still encourage you to apply. Are most events online, in person, or a combination? Great question. So it depends on where you're at in the world and which program you sign up for. So for example, we do have quite a few in-person locations. Some, for example, we have a Calgary location, a New York location. We have a Vancouver location, Toronto. So and there's a couple others. I think we're launching Dubai this year. So we do have in-person ones. The full list is on our website. So if you are in any of those specific locations, you can apply for the in-person program. And then we have our virtual program. So for example, I am a virtual director. So I teach this program. I do this program. I mentor students from all over the world. And that one, the actual weekly sessions are virtual. But of course, there's always going to be some in-person opportunities available to you. So for example, let's say you have been building in the quantum computing space. That's where you've been doing your kind of individual project work. And there's like a cool conference coming up, and that conference might contact TKS and be like, hey, we have this quantum computing conference. Do you have any people that might be interested in speaking at it, for example? And then we as directors would be like, oh yeah, there's a student I know that's building in that space. And we would refer you to potentially attend that conference in person. So again, it's all earned opportunities based on the work that you put in. But just because you're virtual doesn't mean you wouldn't ever go to an in-person event. But your week to week would be completely virtual. So hopefully that answers the full question, versus if you were in Toronto and you signed up for the Toronto program, every week you would go in person to the Toronto location for sessions. Okay, good questions. Anyone else? Okay, if any questions come up that I haven't answered, You can always contact us through our website. We have an amazing operations team who's ready to answer any and all of your questions. So if some other questions come up that you're like, oh man, I wish I would have asked this, it's not the last chance to do that. You can, of course, answer or ask us on our website. So again, this QR code is used to just start your application. You're not committing to anything. You're essentially just saying like, hey, I'm interested. What is this all about? And so there's no harm in applying. That's the QR code to be able to do it. If there's any last minute questions, please send them over. Check out TKS and the partnership. Yes, thank you for sending that link, Sydney, in the chat. And oh, wow. Yeah, amazing. Even better. A $10,000 grant for your passion project, also linked in the chat from Sydney. Thank you. All right. Well, if there's any more questions, feel free to send them. If not, that's the end of what I have for you guys, but I'm going to stay around for a little bit more in case anyone has any last minute questions they'd like. I'll play some tunes while we're hanging out for a bit. Any other TKS questions? Hit me up. Thanks for coming, guys. Oh, thank you, Catherine. That's so nice of you to say. Get your wheels spinning. Amazing. Thank you. I do think we're doing amazing things. That's why I do this job. So appreciate it. Thanks for coming, guys. If there's anything else I can answer, don't be shy. If not, have a good one, and I hope to see some of your applications.
Thank you, Jessica. Have a great night.
Bye, you too.